So this week's episode of Demon Slayer, we get a Zenitsu-focused episode, him being a coward, but also being a total badass with his lightning form. But before we jump into all the amazing content towards Zenitsu, I have to say, Inosuke in this episode, he got a couple of chuckles at me. First things first, I love the idea that, he's just someone who can't admit that he's wounded, like it's a sign of weakness, and him being almost like a boar, he can't admit to that. I love how you'll just see him gushing out blood. You'll see him just clearly wounded, a blind man would be able to tell, and he still is trying to put on the act, but at any moment he could probably pass out from blood loss. Or towards the end of the episode where you have one of the child demons basically running, she's calling towards her father, and Inosuke's so clueless that he thinks she's talking towards him, being like, basically saying, "Who are you calling daddy?" I love that. This man, I just love how almost clueless he is to situations and how it can actually be a very dangerous thing, as if it wasn't for someone like Tanjiro, he could easily die from just simple blood loss because he would ignore it thinking that's a sign of weakness or not wanting to get help or willing to get help when he clearly needs it. But of course, you also have some hilarious scenes with him as well, but holy shit. Cliffhanger for this episode has me dying to see where Papa Demon is gonna go because it doesn't even look like Tanjiro's weapon is cutting through his skin. This is gonna be an incredible fight, I am sure, but let's jump into the main topic at hand. Our boy Zenitsu. We get a lot of backstory and just kind of showcasing how Zenitsu ultimately ended up being a demon hunter, because most people are probably going to look at him and say, he's always running away, he clearly doesn't want to fight, even though yes, when he's knocked out he's clearly a badass, why would he be a part of this? And clearly there's something, wrong with his emotions that he feels kind of worthless. And we can see in this episode, yeah, he hates himself. He probably hates himself more than anyone on this earth hates him. He feels useless, he doesn't have parents, the only one who ever gave him any sort of hope and comfort was his Gramps. And I can understand how he could ultimately become a demon slayer when the one person who is basically praising you, not giving up on you, and teaching you the right ways is someone teaching you how to be a demon hunter because you have the potential and wanting you to kind of live up to that potential, even though everyone else around you is basically calling you a nobody, and if you show any form of vulnerability, they immediately abandon you. I think it's really interesting seeing Zenitsu in the past as well as now in the present because it really highlights why he is the way that he is. I don't think many people in this episode are going to be criticizing Zenitsu for wanting to run away in this situation. You're seeing babyface looking spiders, you're seeing a giant arachnid. No one, even if you don't have a fear of spiders, is going to look at that and probably say, oh yeah, I want to fight that. No, most people are going to be shitting their pants and wanting to turn away and run. This is the first time I'm like, Zenitsu, I'm not even, saying you shouldn't be scared right now. Just run out of the forest, you don't want to deal with this. And I'm glad he tried, even though it was funny. I was like, you can't really blame the guy. But for the most part, he seems overly terrified, and when you have someone who's been basically hated and not supported his entire life, that's going to ruin your self-esteem and feel like you have no self-worth. And to see ultimately how his kind of Gramps treated him, it was very abusive in some ways, but it was more tough love than anything. Even though everyone surrounding him, we learned that his Gramps was like top-ranked demon hunter. He was being trained by the best of the best, and a lot of people surrounding him who obviously wouldn't run away, from the face of danger, things like that, are saying how worthless he is because, honestly, you can't really blame a lot of outside eyes because, yes, there's no compassion there. They're not taking into account his own feelings, but for most people, they're going to look at this kid and say, why is a top-level soldier training someone like this who clearly wants to run away? There are better soldiers to train who could actually save more lives than this worthless kid. It's harsh, you can understand the perspective, but you also feel like they should have maybe talked to the kid a bit more and maybe just gave him a bit more loving care than obviously pretty much everyone gave him. But I love the idea that, he just has such unfortunate luck. No family, no real friends. He got struck by lightning, it changed his hair color, and he could only, at the end of the day, master one of his 3 forms. He could only do one of his lightning bursts, and of course, for someone who hates himself that much, it's clear as day why, after clearly seeing how tortured his soul was, why he would keep hating himself, and his Gramps would just kind of be bashing him over the head in a very gentle way, but trying to get it across that it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to run. It's okay to feel fear. But the only thing that's not okay is to give up and say you can't do this. He can do this. It's fine to cry, it's fine to run away, and even if you can only do one of these forms, that's fine. Master that form, hone that form, and make sure that that one attack is going to get the job done. And I think it's such an emotional and just really intriguing plotline to see why Zenitsu is the way he is. How could someone who was trained by people who somehow passed a test, how could he still be crying and running away? Well, you see, the one person who taught him and didn't give up on him said, it's fine to do that, just don't give up. And even though he tries to give up, you still, at the end of the day, eventually that fear will generally take hold and he'll pass out and his true form can be unleashed. It's quite tragic though that the fact of the matter is, basically when he's knocked out, he'll have like the dreams, he'll kind of listen to what his Gramps was saying and be able to muster up the courage to be able to attack and use his full potential. And as we see, he is incredibly powerful. Hell, he does a move in this episode that is probably one of my favorite Demon Hunter moves. He literally uses his kind of fast as lightning speed to use the cobwebs to spring up to then charge at the spider and cut its head off. That was one of the most badass, most beautifully animated, and most just intriguing directed sequences I've seen in this show, and there's a lot of great sequences, don't get me wrong. But it's so tragic that when he comes to, he feels like the dream's over. When he's, killing the spider, when he's doing things, protecting people, he's knocked out, feeling like it's just a dream. And when he wakes up, that dream's over, and he's just the coward Zenitsu who no one believes in, and he's just going to die someday because he has no talents. It's so painful to see that this is how he looks at himself and views himself, and that only when he's knocked out he can let that potential actually flourish. The one saving grace is that he can use his abilities when he's knocked out, but the fact of the matter is when he's fully aware of what's going on around him, he doesn't see his true potential. He'll think, oh, the demon's dead, someone else had to do that. He kind of said that with the previous fight where the kid was basically kind of like, oh my god, this kid has to be a powerful soldier, we gotta take him with him. It's funny, but it's also sad that he doesn't understand his own abilities. And I think it's why it's so important he travels with someone like Tanjiro. Tanjiro had younger siblings. He knows when to smack them and he knows when to guide them in a nurturing way. Someone like Inosuke, they need guidance. They need someone to hold their hand, sometimes smack them upside the head. They need him to basically show them their true worth and show them how to be proper hunters, and they'll also be able to show him things that maybe he wouldn't be able to see because he'll be able to look at things from their perspective. I think it's so just incredibly interesting how both Zenitsu as well as Inosuke both have so much difference about them in terms of how they need Tanjiro to help him grow, but at the same time they're so similar, and it's why it's such a great dysfunctional cast of characters that really both need each other. And I think it's so interesting not only just learning more about Zenitsu and just his backstory and how he ended up where he was, but it also gives you much more respect and feel more compassion for him than maybe some people used to give him, because yeah, he's terrified, yeah, he wants to run away, yeah, he wants to marry every girl he sees because he honestly believes he's going to die at any moment and he'd rather have some love in his life than basically be a bachelor and die. But it really does show you just how broken this man is and how much he needs a family, and I think that this dysfunctional cast of characters of demon hunters are going to be that family. They're gonna fight, they're gonna bicker, but I think they're also gonna have their sweet moments as well. It's just we gotta get to that point. We gotta get out of this forest. There's still so many demons they gotta defeat, but once they do, once we start traveling more and more, it'll be very fun to see the slice of life and just simple moments really flourish and just highlight what they are capable of outside of battle and as a person, not scared of just people and themselves, and also for someone like Inosuke not feel like he's just an animal and can start maybe explaining emotions. Obviously it'll be a slow but gradual growth, but you're very intrigued to see where it'll ultimately go. As much as I love Tanjiro and his water techniques, hell, even what Inosuke has done with his sensory, I just love the detail to the lightning. It feels so impactful. You're just like, this is the kind of like one of these fights that you're glad was one episode. The previous fights where you have 2 or 3 episodes sometimes, that feels like you need the time to flourish them. But for someone who literally uses lightning who can just, you see him, now you don't, of course you want him to basically end this spider in one attack or something to that nature, and I thought it was so great seeing how he ultimately defeated something that poisoned him, was going to turn him into a spider, which is just another way to make this an even more frightening situation, that not only can you be manipulated, you might turn into one of these spiders. The family of demons just keeps getting worse and worse, and it's just so interesting to see where they keep evolving this fight, because this is the most interesting setting and the most interesting combat scenario we've been a part of because of just how much there is to it and how it continuously grows. The more I watch a Demon Slayer, the more I love it, not only just for its world and just the power mechanics, the overall demon hunter mechanics, it's so intriguing, but the characters, I love all these characters. I've pretty much loved all these characters since minute 1, even if they have been a little too out there at times, but the more I see of them, the more I just recognize their greatness, how broken they are, and how much further they can grow because of the cast of characters, and just also how they can break depending on the situation. And I just love it. It's so damn good, and I'm glad we got more Zenitsu because I've been missing my boy. even though we get a lot of his comedy, we haven't really seen the emotional side as of late. As well, always seeing him use his lightning is goddamn breathtaking, because just look at it. No one can deny just the overall directing. It made you feel like you were a bolt of lightning coming towards that spider, and I appreciate it. There's a little bit of comedy, but for the most part, this was a very dramatic episode, and I can't wait to see how Zenitsu will get out of this situation, because there's no way he's going out right now. His bird did leave. If he can keep using his breathing techniques, that poison should slow down. But people like Tanjiro, people like Inosuke, they got their hands full right now, and they're not doing so well either, especially for Inosuke, who's pretty badly wounded. I thought this was an excellent episode, though. I can't wait for episode 18 next week to see the father in action, because this man looks tough as shit. Let me know what everyone thought, though, down in the comment section below. Love it, hate, favorite moment, whatever you feel, let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.